Hi everyone, my name is Pat, and today I will be reviewing for you Tegan and Sara's new album, Heartthrob. Just to say a few things before we get started here that you should probably know about me before you watch this video, is that I love Tegan and Sara. Really? You love Tegan and Sara? You're making a review. Yes, I do love Tegan and Sara. They are one of my favorite bands of all time. Ooh, I even am getting into the Heartthrob spirit of the season with my Tegan and Sara shirt today. They'll always be one of my favorite bands, no matter what kind of music they make or what they do, because I really appreciate them and I appreciate the kind of music that they write. One of the things that I love most about Tegan and Sara is the amount of variety and the amount of diversity that comes to two twin sisters making a band. As any Tegan and Sara fan would know, that you can listen to a folk rock song if you want to a living room, you can listen to a punk rock song with North Shore if you want to, because they just have that much variety. You can listen to weird, twisted, dark music like Night Watch or Knife Going In or Like O Like H, and that's accessible to you if you want it. That's always been important for me in music, is having some kind of diversity, having some kind of, ability to manipulate sound in music in a way that you can do well and can become a successful musician off of it, which Tegan and Sara have done very well over the course of their entire musical career. So Heartthrob was released today. Well, today is the 28th. It leaks, I guess, last week probably, or it didn't necessarily leak. I guess they were streaming different songs in various places. I think Amazon accidentally released it to the people who pre-ordered it as a part of a fluke, so lucky you. Good thing for the internet, we got it. So I've been listening to that nonstop for about a week and a half, for everything that we've had, and I finally think I've formed some kind of general opinion, attitude towards it that I'd like to convey. Anything I say in this is not meant to belittle, is not meant to encourage, is not meant to praise, is not meant to spread negativity, not meant to spread absolute positivity. It is just my humble opinion. So that being said, let's get started here. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the album song by song in the order of which I heard them and tell you what I think of each song. There's a few things that when a band is releasing a new album that I personally look for as a part of the direction that they're going in, or the kind of sound that they're going to have, or what I expect from an album. And those things are different. Is there different songs? Is there a variety of songs? Is it different than their old stuff? Growth. Did they improve what they've learned over the course of their career? Have they become better musicians? Have they written better, stronger, more powerful songs? Variety. Does every song sound the same? Do most of the songs sound different from each other? Is there a new sound? Are there a variety of sounds? Nostalgia and reminiscence. Is it reflective of the kind of music that they've made? Does it have indications that they've stayed true to their roots while taking it in a new direction? Creativity. Creativity, obviously, you need to have some kind of creative talent, musical talent to create an album, right? Is it creative? Is it different? Is it something that hasn't been done before? Is it creating something that you can be proud of? Is it something that you can relate to? What kind of creative influence went into making this album? So those are 5 big things that I look for when a band is making an album.
All I wanna get is a little.
So the first song that I think everyone heard off this album was Closer.
All I wanna know is
Closer is definitely not something that I'm used to with Tegan and Sara. When I first heard it, I was just kind of indifferent, neutral towards it, because I didn't want to say, oh, this is amazing just because it just came out, or oh, I hate it, because I didn't want to end up loving it later and after saying I hated it. So I listened to it religiously quite a few times. Came to the conclusion that this song is different, look for difference, it's new, it's very fresh, it is very well written, it's done well, and like I said, Tegan and Sara have a knack for taking music that they're not particularly masterful or skilled with, and they prove that they can be very skilled and masterful with it. And I think they did that with Closer, making a successful, happy, cheerful, dancey pop song. The next song that I think everyone heard off the album, the upcoming album at the time, was I'm Not Your Hero. I'm Not Your Hero honestly just blew Closer out of the water to me. This was actually what I would have expected most of the album to sound like when I heard it, and I instantly fell in love with I'm Not Your Hero. It's reminiscent of the music that they used to create. It's very well composed. It's lyrically beautiful. I think the lyrics are strong. I think that it's catchy. I think that it's very empowering. And all the instruments work together. The synth, the drums, the guitar, the bass, along with Sara's vocals, to create a really powerful, really well done song. The most important thing about this song, I think, is it's almost a reflection of Tegan and Sara taking everything that they've learned over the years, carrying with them what they've learned and how they've learned to manipulate sound and how they've learned to compose music, taking a new direction and do it very well to create a really amazing, powerful song like I'm Not Your Hero.
Stay, you'll leave me in the morning.
While we're on the topic of extremely well-written, powerful, empowering songs, I'd like to bring up the next song that I heard, which I heard live from a live video, was Now I'm All Messed Up. This song definitely is either on par or a little bit above par with I'm Not Your Hero for me. Now I'm All Messed Up might actually be my favorite song on the album. Why? Pretty much all the same reasons as I'm Not Your Hero. It is a reflection of what Tegan and Sara have learned. It is a powerful, strong, very well written song. It makes well use of all the instruments working together to create a really nice sound that works well with the lyrics, which all the instruments work well together, and this style is very much like Tegan and Sara. If you haven't seen this video live, I very much suggest that you go watch Now I'm All Messed Up live and pay attention to how Sara belts out the chorus of the song, because she belts it out in ways that I didn't think she was actually capable of. Very impressive. I was blown away by Now I'm All Messed Up. So the next song that I heard off the album was called I Was a Fool. I actually watched the interview that Tegan and Sara did about the song that was released at the same time. And I remember Tegan talking about specifically how the song was pretty much about metaphorically packing your bags, getting ready to leave, and then just freezing in your tracks, being a fool for love. I thought to myself, wow, that's really powerful. That's a lot of strong emotion. That is something you should write a song about. So when I listened to it, I noticed the very pretty, very elegant, very sad also piano. I think that's actually the strongest part of the song for me. It's very consistent, it's strong, it actually makes the song, drives the emotion. But when Tegan started singing, this is the first time I'll ever say this, it raised a few red flags for me. I have a very fine line that is walked between vocal effects and an oversaturation of vocal effects for me. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously every album almost ever created has used some type of vocal effect, maybe not as much, 20, 30 years ago, but very much more in contemporary music. There's things such as auto-tune, there's things as, very extreme vocal effects, echoing effects. This song, I thought, was an example of how you can get very easily oversaturated with things like auto-tune and echo, which kind of was a turn-off to me, honestly. I think it would be a much more powerful song if it wasn't as echoey, if it didn't have as much of a, boost in Tegan voice. And this is when I started to notice it's just a really simple pop drum beat. And then what could have been a really powerful, awesome song just kind of ended up being, for me, a very plain, very flat, very oversaturated song with synth and vocal effects. The next song that was released is called Shock to Your System. Again, I heard the intro to it and I was like, oh man, this is different. It's very different. This is going to sound really cool. Honestly, as I'm listening to this song, it was just, promising. And as soon as it got to the verse, it just kind of capped off at promising and ended up being yet another dull, slow, oversaturated with vocal effects, oversaturated with synth song. And to me, honestly, nothing really stood out about I Was a Fool and Shock to Your System that as much as the first three songs that were released on the album. I thought that they were lacking in strength. I thought that they were lacking in creative drive and technicality. Of all the songs on the album, I think I've listened to Shock to Your System least out of all of them. It doesn't really sound much like old Tegan and Sara, and it almost sounds out of place for the album, to me. It doesn't necessarily sound like the rest of the album either, but, I guess it's just the one song that doesn't really seem to fit in with everything else. If you don't like the things I'm saying, you don't have to watch this video. Again, this is my personal opinion, this is my personal preference towards music, and again, I'm not saying this so that you will send me hate, and I'm not saying this to spread hate. I'm saying this because this is how I feel, and I felt compelled to make a video about it. The next song that I heard was I Couldn't Be Your Friend. I'd like to describe this song as if Taylor Swift and Katy Perry collaborated to make an underground pop song, it would sound pretty much like this song. This is another song that I haven't listened to, or I tried not to listen to as much because it doesn't stand out to me. It just sounds like a very simple poppy song. You know, the vocal effects did start to bother me, and I guess I don't really have to say it as much for the rest of the songs because they are very prevalent in the other songs. One of the things about this is I thought it sounded exactly like this song by Taylor Swift.
Once upon a time, a few mistakes ago, I was in your sights, you got me alone.
Well, not exactly, but it did remind me of that, and that also raises more red flags for me when it comes to music. If I can almost automatically identify or remember a song that sounds like another song, it does pose an issue for me to kind of get into the song individually and kind of respect it as one entity. And this is where I noticed a lot of the songs in the album just started to kind of blend together or have one, kind of sound. It almost like melded together to make almost one sound. Something you look for in an album is variety and diversity, and there wasn't much variety at this point. The next song I heard was this one, Drove Me Wild, and this is another song I thought that, it's definitely catchy, and I think catchy is good, especially if you have very well-written hooks, very catchy hooks, catchy riffs, and, it makes you, it sticks in your mind. That's what catchy's meant to do. So this song did stand out from the rest a little bit. Have you ever heard the MCR song Summertime? It was on their last record. Hold on a second. That is what you call a very simple pop drum beat. It is one of the most simple beats you can do in drums. In having a little bit of experience with drums, you need to know that, like, there's different styles of playing piano. There's blues piano, there is classical piano, there is new wave piano. With guitar, there's jazz guitar, there's bluegrass guitar, there is crunch, there is grunge, there's so many styles you can play of guitar. The same can be said for drums. There's jazz drum beats, there's, metal drum beats where you double bass out the butt. There is very simple pop beats. This is an example of a very simple pop beat. And to me, a lot of the songs on the album seem to just have a variation of the MCR song's Summertime's pop, drum beat. And that, I think, is one of the most relevant things, or that is one of the most prevalent things about the album, and especially a good example of it is in Drove Me Wild. It also sounds a lot like the song Peace Sign by Lights as far as the music goes. And the song Helena Beat by Foster the People. In fact, I think if you even took the music from Peace Sign and the vocals to Helena Beat and put them all together, you would almost have a skeletal copy of Drove Me Wild. Very loose, again. It doesn't sound exactly the same, but when it reminds me of music like that, especially two songs, it raises a few red flags. And then, it has a simple pop chord progression, which again, most of the album does have a very simple pop chord progression. It's major chords going up, 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 and then on the fourth it goes back to the very first chord, plays it into the next riff again. That's what I have to say about Drove Me Wild.
Guilty as charged, you were on my mind.
The next song I heard off the album was Guilty as Charged. It's still catchy. It's what I noticed about a lot of the songs, they just end up being catchy. But there's still an overboard of synth. I think it lacks in variety, and it sounds like the song AA by Lady Gaga at some parts, and it almost like it has the lyrics of Peace Sign now. I don't really have much to say about this song because I honestly didn't like it that much. The next song I heard was How Come You Don't Want Me Now. How Come You Don't Want Me Now almost sounds like a minor version of this song by Matt and Kim. This is extremely catchy, and I love the harmonies used in this song. This is another one, with Drove Me Wild that did kind of stand out to me, apart from other songs. The vocal effects, though, I think are a little bit overboard, which does bother me. Vocal oversaturation does have a big influence on the album, I think, and I don't necessarily think it's a positive one. And I noticed with Sarah, lyrically, I thought this song was just way too simple. I mean, it is like just under 3 minutes, so it's not even a very long song, but the simplicity involved with this song I thought was a big turnoff to me. Alright, the next song was a song called Goodbye Goodbye, and Goodbye Goodbye, when I got the track list or when their track list was released, I thought, well, that sounds like a sad song, that might be a sad song, that might be a sad song. No, I don't want necessarily an album full of sad songs because there's no variety there. I want, good, bad, positive, negative variety, When I listened to it, I was like, wow, even the sad songs sound happy on this album. Which can be said for, like, How Come You Don't Want Me Now, as well as Goodbye Goodbye. Just the synth, the very simple pop progressions, and very simple pop drum beats, not doing it for me at this point.
First time you said my name, I knew.
So Love They Say, you know what this song reminded me of? Phil Collins was a woman writing for the Tarzan soundtrack, almost 15 years ago. This song could be on the Tarzan soundtrack. Can't you see it? Like, listen to this song and then tell me you can't imagine that it could be on the Tarzan soundtrack.
Tarzan.
Tarzan. Oh, I see.
Oh, I see. Tarzan? Oh, I see.
No. I'm Jane.
No. I'm Jane.
No. Jane. Tarzan. Jane.
And I'd say that's a positive thing. I mean, I love Tarzan and I love Disney and I love that soundtrack, so I thought Love They Say was definitely a direction that I did like that they took with combining, old with the new, experience with new findings, with new adventures and endeavors in music. So, plus with Love They Say. And the very last song I heard was I Run Empty. I Run Empty, I thought, was the direction that the album could have been taken in to make, a better variety or make well use of the things that they've learned as musicians and taking it in a new direction to make everything work well together. So in conclusion, this is what I think of the album in its entirety. What are the pros of this album? The pros of this album to me, I think, is that it is different. Even if it's not the kind of different I was expecting, as a musician, it's important to test different waters, to take different directions and see where it lands you, as far as success, as far as fans, as far as, personal gain and endeavors. And I think that it seems like Tegan and Sara are very happy with this album, and it seems like a lot of their fans are extremely happy with this album. Meaning that they found some kind of deeper meaning, they found some kind of relativity, they found some kind of attachment to these songs and this album. That's very important. That is, personally an amazing experience to have, and I think that's wonderful. As a synthesized pop album, this is pretty damn fantastic, I would say. I may not particularly like synth pop music, but I know it well enough to know what works and what doesn't work, and I think that what they've done works very well for synthesized pop music. And going back to difference, I guess it is very much unlike anything they've written. I guess the closest songs that we really have to anything on Heartthrob would be something like Don't Rush or Are You 10 Years Ago, and even that is a complete stretch. It's almost like Tegan and Sara dove into something completely head first and did very well in doing so. What are the cons? That's a Tegan and Sara joke. The cons of this album, for me, my personal opinion, is it's too simplistic in the way that all the songs kind of meld together to make one sound for the entire album. The simple pop beats, the simple pop chord progressions, and just the overall, it's strong. A lot of the song's strongest features are that it's very catchy, is something that ends up being very lacking to me. One of the things that I love most about Tegan and Sara was, or is still, their amount of diversity from album to album, even between song to song on every album. It's amazing to see how two people can do such a thing. There's always been a difference between, the way Tegan writes songs and the way Sara writes songs. And of course you can tell the difference between the songs on Heartthrob, but it is very, very, very difficult too. You take a song like, think of like The Ocean, where there's Tegan singing like 1,000,000 words per minute, not really. And you take a song like On Directing, which is a Sara song, and that uses 10 2 or 3 lines the entire song. You know, that's a huge difference in their writing styles, and to me it seems like they almost lost that on Heartthrob. There is no difference from song to song. There's no variety between, you know, a Tegan song, a Sarah song. It all just sounds way too similar to each other, and that was something I was very disappointed in. I'm not a fan of pop music. I'm not a fan of specifically synthesized pop music, and I think that this was a little overboard with, you know, going pop, you know, kind of diving headfirst into the mainstream. I think my biggest issue was it almost seemed like they were too far from the roots and way too into the mainstream for this. I'm not saying, you know, going mainstream technically, or, you know, always a bad thing, because if there brings them a different level of success, but they do deserve. 2 talented people as talented as Tegan and Sara deserve this level of notoriety and respect and notice and fame and success, which is great for them if this is where it gets them. As a fan, as a music lover, it is not what I was hoping for. Oh well. And there's really just no, you know, stark contrast between song to song, like I said. I guess that's my biggest issue. My final opinion is that we have pop music out the butt nowadays. It is contemporary, it is everywhere. Everywhere you go, you're hearing pop music. You turn on the radio, pop music. You go in a gas station, pop music. You turn on any radio station, pop music. It's playing in your college, you hear it in commercials, you just always are hearing pop music. We have enough pop music. And I didn't necessarily think that we needed any more pop music, which was my biggest issue with Heartthrob. It's definitely creatively different. It is something that I will have to get used to. It is definitely not, by any means, my favorite Tegan and Sara album at all. I would probably listen to some of the songs on this every once in a while. I would never really directly go to listen to one of their songs. I would usually listen to any of their older songs beforehand. On a grand scale, I'd give this song about 3 or 4 stars out of 10, if I had to, personally. Now, like I said, this isn't meant to spread any kind of hate, because I do not hate the album. It's not meant to be anything to sway people one way or another. It is not meant to encourage or refuse anything. It is just my humble opinion. I love Tegan and Sara. This is true. Am I allowed to dislike Heartthrob? Yes, I am. Is it my right to dislike Heartthrob? Of course it is. Is it your right to hate me for saying I don't like Heartthrob? Sure, if you really want to be that way. If you love Tegan and Sara and you love everything you do and synth pop doesn't bother you and you think it's good, then you're going to fall in love with Heartthrob. If you dislike that and you wish Tegan and Sara made a completely different album, at least you have your old stuff, right? So this is probably way too long. Thank you for watching. If you bothered to, I hope it didn't offend anyone. I'm gonna go listen to Tegan and Sara now. So happy listening, everyone. Thank you so much for watching.